Hi friends, and welcome back to Gardening Suburbia. My name is Amanda, and today we are going to try to finish planting tomatoes along with some other cool little things. So I live in a suburban backyard here in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I try to grow as many of the things as I can. This year I think I'm growing about 20 different varieties of tomatoes. Most of those are for canning and preserving, and then I do have quite a long list of peppers as well. So I am taking inventory and kind of trying to keep track of things that I'm growing, just so that I can look back on this for future years, and just kind of decide what I really loved, what I need to definitely grow again, and then things that maybe I don't need to grow again. But this year, I am trying a bunch of new cherry tomato varieties because I really want to make sure that my maybe dislike, I should say, of fresh out of the garden tomatoes isn't just a dislike for those varieties that come from grocery store tomatoes, because as I've heard so many people say before, the varieties that you get from the store don't taste as good from the store as they do from your own garden. So last year I tried one variety that in particular that stands out to me that I really liked was the Artisan Tiger Stripes Blush, which is like a grape cherry tomato. So it's kind of oblong, super delicious, very citrusy because it was a yellow orange tomato, and it is pretty delicious. So I'm going to be trying a whole bunch of different varieties of cherries to see if those guys are any better, and to see if I can find one that I just absolutely can't do without. We are also going to be experimenting today because I, for one, love gardening for the reason that I can experiment like a child. I get to do little fun science experiments and see what works and what doesn't. And I think that's what really brought me into gardening, was being able to try different things and maybe do things that aren't how you're supposed to garden. And I think that's what makes it so much fun, because someone can do something completely different from someone else who lives somewhere else, because gardening is just kind of up to the gardener, up to where that person lives, and it's fun. So a couple days ago, 2 weeks ago, I stopped by my stepmom's house, and she had a bunch of flower pots, terracotta pots, that she was going to gift to me. And in the mix of that, there was a stack of seeds. So I grabbed those seeds, and so I got some really cool Mexican sunflowers. And if you guys didn't know, sunflower or seeds don't really have an expiration date. Mind you, there are some varieties that lose germination rate year after year. So a good example of that is onions. Onions decrease in germination rate every single year that you don't plant them after the sell-by date. Check out the sell-by date on this packet. It's 1999, which is pretty close to my birth year, but I'm still older than this pack of seeds. So 1999, these guys are over 24 years old, almost 25. So we're gonna plant these guys and see if we can get some really cool sunflowers, Mexican sunflowers, and then we also got a autumn blend. Now, these guys will probably have a lower germination than if I had planted them in 1999, but that is okay. So we're going to try these guys out and get these guys planted, and then fill in some spots, and of course get my tomatoes planted. All right, so we've got 2 rows of tomatoes. This front row is literally just going to cascade into my walkway. It's kind of what I did last year. And then this back row, I'm actually going to set up my trellis, my cattle panel, to build a wall between 2 T-posts. basically tie those guys up. Anything that doesn't get tied up, I don't know. Last year I did a 2-liter system where I basically chop these guys to give them, cut them right here and let them grow 2 main stems. I don't know if I'm going to do that this season. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm going to definitely tie those guys, trellis this middle row to my cattle panel. So I've got a mushroom basket, which has that potato looking leaf. We've got Dr. White Cheese Yellow, Costa Ludo Genovese, another Dr. White Cheese Yellow because I really like them. This terracotta one, we've got a mortgage lifter, a vintage wine, a Paul Robinson in the back corner, another Paul, a Queen of the Night, which is a cherry tomato variety. I think it's like a dark purple, almost has some yellow bits in it. And then we have Barry's Crazy Cherry, which I'm so excited for. I've got 2 of these. I'm going to plant my other one on the opposite side. Maybe what I'll do is actually I'll take this Dr. White Cheese Yellow and plant it on the other side as well and space that middle row just a little bit further, just so that those guys aren't choking each other out quite as much. Last year I did 18 inches of space between, and it worked. I got a very good harvest of tomatoes. I think this year I'm going to give them just a little bit more space in between. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomatoes. Looks like I've got 5 tomatoes per row. And then I've got these front ones kind of off-centered from that back row. Okay, cool. So we've got tomatoes set up. Let's put the other side set up too. So this bed does get more shade, just why I'm trying to like not plant as many things on this side, or at least keep it more contained towards the center, because the outside over there is definitely more shade. So I do have one more other tomato plant. All right, so I actually had 2 more tomato plants. These were the sad ones that I had taken out from my market, so that they weren't getting sold, and they kind of popped back. It kind of looks like this one had some dampening off. So that's basically where it was getting way too much water. And sometimes it'll completely shrivel at the base and then the plant will just fall over. This one just had some not so great looking leaves. That's okay. I'll basically just cut these guys off and then plant it a little deeper. And anywhere the tomato stalk is touching soil, or even if it's getting a lot of rain, you can see it start to grow some roots. The little hairs you're seeing on the tomato plant right now are not roots. Those are called trichomes, and basically that's a defense system for the tomato plant. Roots will grow off the stem, but what you're seeing on that plant is not actually roots. Now we've got 6 tomato plants. Got a Black Beauty, another Principe Borges, which means I'll have 3 of these guys, which is fine with me. This is the variety that I'm going to use to make sun-dried tomatoes out of, which I absolutely love, especially in like some roasted veggies or with some eggs. So delicious. We've got Barry's Crazy Cherry. We've got, I think there's tons of Brad's Atomic Grape in here. They're just not very big. So I'll probably just pick the healthiest looking ones and go from there. We did have Napa Chardonnay and none of the Napa Chardonnay made it. I didn't even sell any because I didn't have any to sell. So I was a little sad about that. So we did get Brad's Atomic Grape. Got lots of those in there. And then the Black Strawberry, which again, there are quite a few little seedlings in here. I'll probably just pick the strongest looking ones. Maybe those 2 will make it. And then I'll plant one of the Dr. White Cheese Yellow over here. So, Black Beauty and Dr. White Cheese Yellow are actually beefsteak varieties. Black Strawberry, Crazy Cherry, Brad's Atomic Grape, and the Principe Bourgie are more of like cherry varieties. So I think because these are kind of like extras, I'll plant those closer to the woods just because it's not going to get a ton of sun, which will give these guys more access to more sun because I don't have doubles of these on the other side. These I have doubles, well, not the Black Beauty. Black Beauty is just kind of like a extra. But I already have a Dr. White Cheese over there. If I can get more of the cherry varieties, I'll be happy. Just because I want to try them out. So let's see what we got here. So the plan for now is that I am thinking that I'm going to set up either a Florida weave for this side, or my sister found some horse panels. They're 16-foot long. They are a smaller gauge, so the wire compared to like the cattle panel is thinner. So I don't know if it's going to hold as well or if it's going to be fine, but they are 16 foot. The ones that I have, my archway trellis is actually 2 8-foots zip tied together to make my archway. And if I can replace my archway with a 16-foot panel and then take these 2 panels apart and be able to use those to trellis my tomatoes vertically, I'll do that. She hasn't decided whether or not she's going to pick them up. I don't have a truck, so there's no way I'm going to fit a 16-foot panel or even an 8-foot panel because they don't really like to bend too much in my 4-door sedan. So kind of just waiting to see if she's going to purchase those. Obviously, I'll be buying 1 or 2 off of her, depending if she does get them. If she does get them, it'd be awesome. But for now, the plan is going to be Florida weave. I do have extra T-posts in my garage, so I can go ahead and just use like jute twine or whatever I can find to basically like 2 T-posts, set my tomato plants up in between those 2 T-posts, and weave twine between them as they grow to kind of support them as they grow vertically and to kind of keep them a little more cleaned up, subdued. I don't know. So I need to kind of put these guys in a straight line. I think, okay, let's think about the tomatoes. Black Strawberry, Brad's Atomic Grape, Berry's Crazy Cherry. So I know that the Berry's Crazy Cherry sets off insane, huge clusters of cherry tomatoes. Like huge. I will find a picture and put it up here for you guys. It is insane. I've never grown them before. I'm super excited about it. So I think I'm going to set this one, Berry's Crazy Cherry, next to my arch trellis. And that way I can weave it into the Florida weave and also allow it to kind of grow onto the trellis. I think that'd be kind of cool, especially if it like grew over the trellis and there's just giant bundles of cherry tomatoes hanging. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so Berry's Crazy Cherry is going to go next to the trellis. I'm going to set these probably a foot away from some peppers that I planted back there just to give them a little breathing room. So maybe like 20 inches of room, maybe not quite a foot. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. So the back section here, I have 5 pepper plants. I've got one that I got from Funky's, which is that lighter yellowy leafed pepper plant. I've got some parsley that's back there. I think my Ashe County pimento. I know I've got my chili de arbol, and then maybe the Durango Gallo. That might be what it is. I don't remember what all I showed you guys yesterday. But those are the peppers that I have right there. They're kind of like extra ones or snackier varieties like the pimento that I didn't necessarily need an abundance of. Like the chili de arbol, I have a ton of saved and dried in my house right now, so I don't really need an excess of those, but I had good germination on those guys. So I'm just planting them and giving them space in my garden because I had some space right there. Looks like an onion. So we're going to set these guys probably like about center of bed. And I think that'll be good. I do have some beans as well as a loofah, which is looking like it's starting to come back. It had died. So we'll see if it comes back. Last year I didn't have good luck with the loofah, so I tried again. So we got berries crazy. Then let's do the Brad's Atomic and then the black strawberry. So Brad's Atomic, black strawberry. And then we can do maybe the Principe Bourgie on its own and let it just kind of flop into here. And then maybe the Black Beauty. And then we'll do the Dr. White Cheese next to the black strawberry. All right, I think this is our final layout of tomatoes. So now I just need to get these guys dug in. I'm gonna add a little bit of fertilizer, just a regular tomato and veggie fertilizer, just in the pocket where I dig them into. And I may even separate out my Brad's Atomic grape and maybe even the black strawberry and plant it down into my wooden bed over here. Just for a little extra, see what we can get. Yeah, I'm gonna grab a shovel real fast. It is beautiful out here right now. It did rain. It stopped. Luckily, it's been about an hour since we were out here last. I'm just glad it stopped. I have been meaning to plant my tomatoes. I usually plant my tomatoes way before I plant my peppers, and for whatever reason, I planted my peppers before I planted my tomatoes this year. So we'll see how that ends up going. Let's start on this end. I'm gonna step in my garden bed. Usually I don't like doing. Okay. Dig a nice hole. So this year I think my first year when I moved here, I had not really put in garden beds. I originally just started with actually the 2 beds that we have been planting or getting ready to plant tomatoes in. These were already here, and they had a ton of, I think they're like daylilies, which are starting, they're super invasive, and they're coming back. But I think my boyfriend and his friend, they were super sweet. They like came in the backyard and were trying to clean it out and fix it up a little bit because it was overgrown. I mean, my backyard is already super overgrown as it is, but they came and they did their best, and they sprayed a bunch of stuff. And this was before I really had a garden again. So they were spraying some pesticides and herbicides, which I don't use anymore. I don't think there's been anything sprayed in my garden since that first. But I hadn't noticed any poison ivy until just recently. My poison ivy is everywhere. I have poison ivy everywhere. And so I'm having to be super cautious in making sure that I'm not like stepping on poison ivy or just dragging my legs across it, because it's everywhere. I don't know what to do. So I've been thinking about doing this homemade organic weed control, although I don't know that it's going to do anything against the poison ivy. So essentially, the spray solution that I'm thinking of making, I've seen, I think it's Becky from Acre Homestead. She has a giant, beautiful garden in like this Seattle area, and it's up in the mountains, which is so I love the mountains. Fun fact, I actually have a tattoo. My only tattoo is of the mountains because my love for the mountains is so great. But anyway, she lives in the mountains. She makes this pesticide, and it is made out of vinegar and salt and soap and water. And so in my brain, I feel like that would be the perfect thing to try, because it doesn't have any harsh chemicals besides the vinegar, which not very harsh. So I don't know. I don't know if that'll even, like, I was doing some reading on it, and it says that like it will take care of like the leaves and stuff, but the root system on poison ivy, it like that's how it spreads. It sends its roots deep, and even the roots are super irritating to the skin. And I thought I had pulled a whole bunch of it out, but I'm already seeing it come back in the spots that I had pulled it. So I don't know what to do. So I think I'm gonna just try that. Try that vinegar and soap and such, and see if that helps. But I don't know. It may not do anything. If you guys have any solutions that is natural and, you know, maybe won't put nasty stuff into my garden, because that's the main thing I want to avoid, is putting herbicides and pesticides by my food that I'm growing. But I also don't want to get poison ivy because I've had it a few times already. It's not very fun. All right, so guys, keep a count. When I first started gardening in this property, the one thing I'd always find was beer bottle caps, and this is a portion of a beer bottle cap. So this is probably like the third or fourth one I found so far this season. I'm sure it won't be the last. Look at those roly polies. All right, guys, I am just make sure my mic's on. Definitely need a shower after this. I'm getting a little sad because I have 3 more tomato plants to put in the ground, and then I'm done with tomatoes and peppers for planting this season. I don't know why it's making me sad. So I'm just so excited for the season. So excited to see how much this garden changes. It's crazy, like over the past few years, this garden has it's wild how much it has changed. My first season it looked really bare, and this spring, like just seeing all of the different things pop up and like come back, whether that's perennials or just volunteers, has been so cool. I just can't believe that we're already getting stuff in the ground, and it's gonna be, I don't know, I can feel that it's gonna be a good year this season. So as I've been digging in my garden, I've been finding grubs, which I've been throwing off into the distance for the birds to get, because I don't know if you've been listening, but this is like the major pit stop for all the birds in town to come to my yard. And I really think that's just because I have 2 mulberry trees that currently are ripening fruit. And so not the bees, but the birds will just sit up there and chow down on all of the berries that they can fit, and then go on their merry way with a full happy belly. So the birds are here, and therefore I'm setting the grubs out for the birds to then hopefully snatch up, because I don't want them in my garden. Grubs are notorious for they'll kill a plant from the roots. So they'll basically chow down on all of the roots of a plant, and it may just look like your plant is super sad from the top because you can't see the roots, because obviously they're in the ground. But your plant will start to wither away. And really, the only way you can diagnose what's wrong with the plant, if it's going downhill, is to dig it up and see what's going on underneath. So, been picking the grubs out as I see them. Don't necessarily know if there's like a preemptive measure that you can take to like make sure that the grubs don't come. There might be something that you can do for that. I don't know. I've seen people who like will sift their soil through like screens and hand pick out the grubs from some worms. But I don't know if that is something that necessarily would be fun to do for all of your in-ground beds. I think that mostly people do that with their pots. So my area should be getting rain some more tonight as well as tomorrow. So I'm not going to water any of my plants in, because the soil is already pretty damp. And then with the oncoming rain, these guys should be more than good. Should be more than happy. All right, final tomato of 2024 going in the garden. It is a mushroom basket, which, look at those beautiful roots. Nice and white. Pop them in and be good to go. All right, don't mind the setup. I've got a pole in the view. Let's plant these Mexican sunflowers. I'm going to just put them in this space right next to my right garden bed. Now, these are 25 years old. 24? Either way, over 20 years old. So I'm going to heavily plant these guys, just because the germination rate might not be as good as it could be. Just fine. So I'm going to do just 5 holes and do a couple seeds per. One more hole. And one more hole. I will check back with you guys on how well these Mexican sunflowers germinated, because you don't know. You never know. 20-plus-year-old seeds. It's a fun little experiment. So we'll be looking for these in the garden. Hopefully we get something to germinate, and if they do, that'd be super cool. There we have it. All of our tomatoes, peppers got planted yesterday, are in the ground, ready to go for 2024. So as these guys continue to grow, I'll go ahead and take off bottom sets of leaves, anything that is super close to the ground, just so that when it does rain or when I water, the soil doesn't splash up onto those leaves and spread any disease. So we got some beautiful little tomatoes in here. Super excited. They look super tiny right now because I planted them pretty deep. These guys are already grown so much. I planted this one like a week and a half ago. This bed I've decided will be kind of wild and crazy. It's got a lot of different things in it. So got a bunch of volunteer squash, some that I planted. I think I planted that one. Some that I did not. I've got some onions in here. We've got tomatillos. We've got a volunteer tomato. I don't know what kind. More volunteer squash, which I'm super excited about because we had such up and down luck last season with squash. We've got lettuces, some eggplant I planted, some Shasta daisy for some pretty pollinator bits. More eggplants, some peppers that I planted, which are my shishitos. Which looks like we had something try to dig that up. And then I just kind of threw in some Brad's Atomic Grape and those black strawberries. I'm just going to leave those to compost. Same with the lettuces over there. Got a couple different tomatoes, a couple different peppers, squash, eggplant, lettuces. You name it, I've got it. So the garden season is shaping up. We're going to have a lot of beautiful things growing, and I'm just excited to see this in its full glory as it comes to be, because it will be pretty. It's already okay. Here, last note, this is something I'm super excited for. So this is my Colorado blend yarrow. We've got a light pink, kind of like a peachy color, and then look, this one's lavender. Here it is. I'm so excited to see this bloom. This has so many buds on it. And yarrow is definitely one of my favorites. Thank you guys for coming along for another late night planting session. Now it's just time to like fill in some pretty bits. Some really pretty cosmos. I've got, my table was filled with tomatoes and peppers. Now I think there's only like a few basils. We've got some marigolds. We've got some leftover zinnias, which I've been putting in every possible space I can think of. I want my garden to be pretty this year. Not just, it's always pretty. That's not what I mean. I want there to be flowers. I want to have a lot of flowers, a lot of places for the pollinators. So been trying to plop in a lot of pretty colors of flowers. But thank you guys for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys in the next video.